Tian and welcome to World Insight. Andrew Chi-Chih Yao is the very first Chinese Turing Award winner. He's a computer scientist and a computational theorist. He is well respected for proving what is now known as the Yao's principle, which is a way to prove lower bounds on the worst C performance of randomized algorithms by comparing them to deterministic algorithms. He is not only respected for being a scientist, but also for devoting his time nurturing the best talents over the past 2 decades, particularly since he came back to China and joined Tsinghua University. Professor Yao is a strong advocate for interdisciplinary integration. Recently, he also established an institution in Tsinghua University on artificial intelligence. As one of China's most outstanding scientists, he recently received a letter of reply from Chinese President Xi Jinping, encouraging him and his peers to further engage in nurturing top talent and promoting scientific and technological development in the country. Professor Yao is among the awardees of this year's Basic Science Lifetime Award at the ongoing Second International Congress of Basic Science this week. I had an exclusive interview with him over the weekend in Tsinghua University. I know you have been researching about physics, then switched to computer science, and later you also work in the mathematics department of renowned universities. How did you manage to get the real essence of these very different fields? What are the commonalities of these basic sciences?
Actually, it's not too difficult to jump around these basic sciences, mainly because these 3 sciences, physics, mathematics, and computer science, they share the same common scientific language, namely that we can really communicate with each other perfectly with the standard mathematical jargons. And however, there are, of course, differences between the styles on how research is conducted. For example, in physics, the perfect rigor of the mathematics involved is not that important. As long as you can find the truth, you can assert how the reality actually turns out to be. Even if you just find it for the wrong reason, that'd be okay. And computer science is sort of between these 2 subjects. So on the one hand, you would like what you find to be mathematical rigorous, but on the other hand, you have to sometimes do research like a physicist, namely that you should be willing to go outside the standard boundary. If you see a new phenomena, you should be brave enough in order to embrace it.
And what about math?
Math is really beautiful because many of the things that you think that you would never encounter it in real world actually turns up in the research career that I pursued. Because sometimes in order to derive something to understand the depth of the model, you actually would need some mathematics like algebraic topology or algebraic geometry that you would never expect to use because you are basically working with discrete structures. However, for some magical reason, they turn out to be very useful from time to time. So I think that's the beautiful chemistry among the basic sciences.
You are not only a renowned scientist yourself, but also a well-known educator. So when you were teaching the freshmen, that's, you say, always it should be the emphasis of your work. What kind of logic, philosophical approaches, or ways of thinking would you like to nurture among these young talents?
I think that, of course, when you teach freshmen, you have to adjust your style to different type of students. In Tsinghua, we usually have really bright students in our class. Therefore, our job is not really to help them go through the detailed calculations or the standard proofs, but to try to instill in them the spirit of adventure. And typically, what I would like to do is to show them some really beautiful results, which sometimes will need very difficult arguments, but the challenge is to find a way that you can explain it to them in a more elementary way, so that they would, on the one hand, they will be able to grasp the techniques, but on the other hand, they really can see the beauty in all these ideas.
To a liberal arts major like me, it's fascinating what you just described as that adventure. Would you like to give us some examples of those adventures? For example, when you are trying to nurture them into interdisciplinary subjects.
Yes, I can remember I gave lecture in the introduction to computer science. And I sometimes would talk a little bit about quantum computing. Quantum computing is actually like doing a physics experiment, because in physics, we know that when you have a crystal and you have light go through it, and it would be reflected through different angles and in different colors that you can see. And so actually, this particular phenomena is what makes quantum computing so powerful. So I try to phrase the proof of a certain algorithm, a quantum algorithm, in the language of a diffraction of the light through the crystals. And then I think that this really is the physical intuition behind the mathematics. And so that's the kind of thing that I would do when I actually try to make the difficult thing to be transparent in an intuitive way.
Some suggested that no matter which subjects or area that you are researching on or concentrating on, at the end of the day, the beauty and the logic and the journey could all be very similar to one another. I know it's very hard to generalize because nobody can be expert in every field. And yet, I don't know from your perspective where you are, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think there's a certain universality about it, that no matter what kind of problem you're working on and in what field, personally, that the psychological feeling, they tend to be the same. You encounter a problem, you are baffled, and you try to fool around, and you agonizing, and at some point, you suddenly see the light. And so that very moment is what scientists are looking for. I never ask other people, but I feel that we are, I think all the scientists are addicted to seeking that feeling. I think that perhaps some nerve cell in the brain emits some chemicals and gets you addicted, and you just try to replicate it. And I think that moment is the beautiful moment, because at that moment, you know that in the whole world, you are the only one who knows this little secret.
You are the lucky one.
Yeah, even if it's not a huge achievement, but you are the one who have found, and that's what we all look for.
What can you do when you don't achieve, when you didn't manage to achieve what you assumed that you might?
I think with experience, that I think that it's just like in playing sports, and if you're on a basketball team, you of course you wouldn't win all the time, but I think you learn how to handle failure, and most of all, in playing games, you learn to appreciate the merits, and you get to admire other people. It's the same thing with the problem. I think that if you attack a problem for a long time, you finally give up, you should just be very grateful and you appreciate the problem even more. And when someone else solves the problem, and then the first thing that comes to your mind is not that, oh, I should have proceeded and do it, but the first thought that would come to my mind is that I really want to see the proof.
Yeah.
I want to see how this wonderful person is able to overcome all the obstacles that I have encountered.
Computer science, which is a subject you have been devoting decades on and certainly greatly achieved. What do you think are some of the biggest questions that you are still thinking today, and why do they matter?
Just to understand the nature of intelligence. And the wonderful ChatGPT and the big language models, and they have it's just unexpectedly, they have opened up a window to us, namely that actually it is a real life model that you can experiment and observe. So that's a wonderful thing, and I think that it gives us an opportunity to push forward so that we'll be able to figure out exactly with computers what kind of intelligence can we achieve. It's a very exciting thought, but it also really tells us that we have to really take AI safety as a serious subject.
I heard you, Professor Yao, making this point at various international occasions, whether it's closed-door discussion with your counterparts or open-door dialogues and forums. Have you seen from when you become vocal about this until now, any real progress being made about setting the boundaries or better understanding of the nature of intelligence?
Yes, I think that actually what has surprised me is that the speed with which the world has accepted this safety issue as a very important and serious issue by nearly all the communities, from the government, from the industries, and from the academics, even the common people. So I think that people are ready to try to reach some consensus on exactly what needs to be done. And actually, we do have some time, because the intelligence that has been achieved so far has not reached to an alarming level. And so right now, what we need to do is to figure out how to put the red lines on some of the very largest model, and also we can figure out how to deal with some of the standard issues.
From the scientist's perspective, where do you think or how to achieve that kind of standards you just mentioned, and how to scientifically approach the question of the so-called red line that you just mentioned?
I think that actually we do have quite a bit of experience previously in dealing with similar issues like nuclear proliferation, and also some of the biotechnology hazards that it can create. So we do have some experience on how to figure out the regulations and how to legislate. And I think right now there are many. Certainly, there's a community of conscientious scientists who are onto this issue. And the great thing is that that scientists in general are pretty open-minded and also can have rational discussions, and also many of us know each other, and so it's not too difficult to get respected scientists together and try to discuss what needs to be done. And so on this, the scientific community, this is not too difficult to do. And the good thing is that it seems that most of the governments over the world, they also are listening to the scientists. So I am pretty sure that at the end of the day, we are going to come out as human beings, safe and sound.
In the Turing Award, I remember they suggested your achievements as such, if I could read, because it's so hard to recite them. Quote, fundamental contributions to the theory of computation, complexity, including the complexity-based theory of pseudorandom number generation, cryptography, and communication complexity, end of quote. This is what they describe your achievements as, but 20 years from then, you already make your achievements also in algorithm as well as in quantum computing. How did you manage to make yourself well-informed in different subjects and try to keep up with the latest of those fields so you can stay on top of it?
I think that there's only one way of dealing with it. You should focus one subject at a time, because it's not possible, as you have correctly pointed out, to keep track of everything that is happening in any big field. And so what I tend to do is that after a certain number of years, if I find some emerging area that interests me, then I would throw away everything that I have been thinking about and then just focus on the new subject and the new question that I would like to solve. It doesn't mean that you don't pay any attention to what's happening. I think that, but you're not interested in the typical incremental work, and except that you want to keep track of some of the really great achievements in the old fields that you have worked on before.
Yeah, then how would you judge what is the great achievements lately? And also, how would you be able to find those directions? That's what I'm very interested in, make that judgment in a way.
Yeah, I think that one thing that during the last 20 years, I have worked in quantum computing, and also I think it's called the auction. I think fintech, so that would include blockchain and auction theory, and also there's something I've been doing AI lately. So we have this multi-country team trying to work on a technology solution to the bioweapons issue. What we did is to use modern cryptographic techniques to build a DNA screening system, and our hope is to push this and sell it, well, not sell it, but to promote it to Europe, US, and China, so that preferably there is some regulation in the future to demand all the providers would check that the sequences will be secure.
Professor, my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that it seems that you and some of your peers have graduated from being just a scientist, but to being a scientist while having the bigger picture in mind. For example, the top priority about peace, human existence.
I think it's a matter of timing, because if you look at how science has progressed in the last 20 or 30 years, you would realize that many of these new technologies, they are really kind of world-shaking, that they are so powerful that you have to handle it really with extreme care. With all this powerful technology coming out, I think that we have to also be conscientious of the action of our research. It just seems to be natural that we should be concerned.
How do you see when others talk about history? What can we learn from history, or what history has been about?
As a scientist, I tend to look at this question in scientific language. I think that in science, you have the same physical laws, like Newton's laws. And these laws, if you have a certain initial condition, then they tell you how the system, the planet tomorrow will be where. But it depends on the initial conditions. So I think that for human beings are similar to this. I think that biologically, we are very, very similar. I think no matter where you are on Earth. And however, we are all shaped in very different ways. That's determined by our history. If you grow up in Africa, or if you grow up in the Arctic, these are very different conditions, and you will evolve a culture which looks really, really different, and some may be looked upon as being very savage, but it has its reasons in terms of the. So I think that everything is rational, and it comes with a point. So we should try to understand, to deal with each other in a respectful way.
You received a letter from the Chinese President Xi Jinping. He recognized in the letter the achievements that you and your colleagues have been making, and particularly mentioned about your ardent attitude and your incremental steps made along the way in order to achieve all these results. Meanwhile, he has also been in the letter encouraged you and your colleagues to continue on the path and to nurture more talents, both for China and beyond. How do you articulate these important points in that letter, and how do you see your relationship with this country and also with the world?
I am certainly extremely honored by the reply letter from the president. The main points that he's making is that we are so far doing a pretty good job, and our mission really is important, namely to nurture scientific talents and to do groundbreaking research and try to establish departments or groups that have high research standard. And I think this is something that actually is very much what we have been doing for the last 20 years in Tsinghua University. And by the way, I think I'm not alone, and I think that this letter also is a recognition to all my colleagues who I have observed in my 20 years here, that everyone is working very hard to try to fulfill one's duty in doing research and to teach students. And so I think that in the future, I will certainly continue or even harder to make this happen, because personally, I think that my experience this last 20 years is that our basic assumption and the steps for creating a vibrant research place and a nurturing place, it's pretty correct, and that's the only way that one can create a environment that attract as many talents as possible to our university.
This award, award one could say from your friend and peers. How do you see you as among the recipients? Of course, you have won many awards, but just what is it like to be with your peers, with your friends?
Yes, I think this award is special for two reasons. Firstly, the ceremony is going to take place in Tsinghua University, and so among our colleagues and students And I think this is it's very heartwarming to have a chance to share this moment with all my friends
on your home turf.
Secondly, there are 5 other awardees of this prize, and they are all towering figures. They are physicists, mathematicians, and computer scientists whom I respect hugely. So it's really indeed a special honor and gratifying moment for me.
I always interested in how you, Mr. Yao, Professor, besides as a scientist, but also as an individual, reflect upon your different stages of growth as an individual.
Yes, I think that in some way, I have not changed all my life. And I think I can remember since I was in high school, I always want to be a scientist and I want to be a professor one day. And when I think back that mentally, I even though this is many years later, that I sort of think that I have not changed, mainly that my life with my wife, and we still live like graduate students.
Really?
When we first met.
Really? What kind of life is that?
And it's that all our concerns are about some research work, and now we are professors, so there are also some educational work.
Very focused.
But however, it's really that I have never worked outside of universities. I spent a lot of my time thinking about how to make other people doing better work, and that's a different kind of feeling. I never thought that I would enjoy it that much. I really think that in China that there are a lot of talented kids, and I think if I can just add a little help to most of them, I think that would create more value to the world than if I've spent all my time just trying to publish the next paper.
Fascinating. I can continue this conversation for days and months, and who wouldn't? But yet, I know your time is limited. Thank you so much, Professor Yao, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.